Greetings, everyone. Okay, so for some of you, this video will be an introduction, and for others, it will be a reintroduction. So, for that reason, I am going to cover it all and start by first stating the correct pronunciation of my name. Okay, so my name is pronounced Demetira, not Demetira. It's Demetira Tate. Okay, so now that we've got that out the air, now we've gotten that clear, let's move on. And I'm just going to start by just telling you, secondly, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself. First, I am a Texas girl living in a New Jersey world for most of my adult life, and I am the very proud mama of Miss Erica Simone Tate, to whom I have always affectionately referred as my mini-me. So, and a lot of people refer to her as that as well because they know I call her my mini-me, but she is my heart's thump, and being her mom, not a mom, her mom has been the greatest, always remain the absolute best thing I've ever done with my life. True story. Can't top it. Love my baby girl. Okay. Now, other than being Erica's mom, those close to me know that I am very passionate about service, right? I serve. I am an active volunteer in my community. And in addition to that, I also serve as a board member for several nonprofit organizations. And so service is my love language. It's one of my love languages. Then there's cooking and a lot of other things and everything, but service is my love language, and I have a heart for that, right? Now, professionally, after having spent more than 25 years as I like to say, model employee, principally in senior leadership roles and for nonprofit organizations, I had a health scare. I actually had two health scares. The first health scare started with my being rushed via ambulance. Yes, ambulance. So I wasn't an ambulance chaser. No, I was in the ambulance, being rushed via ambulance from work. Yes, so I had an incident that occurred at work while I was at work, and was taken to the hospital, and I spent 3 days in the hospital. I was a glowworm for 3 days. I was hooked up to everything but the kitchen sink. And then I was released, and and despite so many attempts to try to reset and get back, it took me a while. But then I didn't learn my lesson, and I went back into the model employee world. Except the second time, the health scare, that was the last time I allowed myself to be scared by my health. For the first time I finally decided to heed the warning shots that had been fired at me by several of my healthcare professionals, and I just said, like, okay, it's time. And so I did, in the infamous words of Dr. Martin Luther King, I stood straight up. Because as he says, no one can ride. The only way people can ride your back is if it is bent. So in that decision, in that moment, I decided to just stand straight up, and I walked away, right? And so after I walked away from that, it was just, it was a challenging decision, but it was a necessary one, because in that moment, I decided to choose life over death. True story. That's what I did. So I am now currently operating my own independent consulting business. The name of my business is G2G. So it's G2G Innovative Solutions. And the G2G stands for good to great. That's where the G2G stands for. And you can learn more about my business, my overall business model, on my website, G2GIS.com. And that to go into details. But in summary, I founded my business on the premise of lessons learned throughout both my personal and professional journey. I work closely with clients to discover ways to improve operational efficiency by the erudition to work smarter, not harder. That's my philosophy. And those lessons learned are what inspired the recent release of my 100% self-published book entitled The Method to the Magic. I wish I could sing. because I always say it that way. Always introduce the method to the magic. That's the title of my book. It is a 100% self-published project. And this was my first book, and it is intentionally a very short and easy read. And it is comprised of 12 lessons that I have discovered on my journey, which began with my first just getting rid of the box. Okay. I know that you're all familiar with the popular metaphorical expression, get rid of the box. But I just personally feel, yeah, the get rid of the box. It's like, what does that theoretically mean, right? It's a popular metaphorical expression, and it's often used to encourage people to think differently, unconventionally, or from a new perspective. That's where the whole thing, think outside the box came from, right? So, however, I feel strongly that the expression actually stunts individual growth. Why is that? Well, you think about a box, right? So picture a box, put a box in your head, and boxes are very restrictive. They have four sides, a top and a base, flaps that close. And so if you're inside of a box, you can't breathe. If you're inside of a box, you can't breathe. And so if you can't breathe, you can't think. So if you're inside of a box and you can't breathe inside the box, and you can't think inside the box, then how in ham and cheese are you supposed to think and breathe outside of one? It's a really ridiculous statement. And so I know some of you are going like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. That's usually the reaction that I get. But it's like, so I started just getting rid of the box and just thinking, right? So once you do that, here's the thing that you have to do. Once you get rid of your box, you cannot allow anyone else to put you in theirs, because that's what people will do. I don't want to be in my box. I don't want to be in your box. I don't want to be in anybody's box. Like, let's just get rid of the box and let's just think, right? So that's the thing that you have to do. Now, here are just some examples because I said there's 12 lessons. It is intentionally a very short and easy read. But here are some examples of the 12. It's total 12. Lesson number 1 is trust yourself to be the expert. If you know something, then you know what you know. So just trust that. Trust what you know. Trust yourself to be the expert. Lesson 3, you only decide something once. You decide something once. So, for example, when I made the decision that I was going to stand straight up and walk away from that crazy life, and I chose life, I said, I'm going to live. I only made that decision once. I never looked back. I never seconded it. I never questioned it. And I would have a lot of people would send me information from it. I said, but I'm not doing that anymore. And I finally just had to close my ears from that. I was like, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing this now. And I made that decision. And the first person that has to honor and respect a decision that you made is who? You. Other people will just get in where they fit in. So that's lesson number 3. Let's see. Lesson number 4. I'm just giving examples. No is a complete sentence. No, period, is a complete sentence. You could just say no. That's a good lesson. The lesson number 6 is another example. Why didn't you know? When people say, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, really? Well, why didn't you know? So because a lot of times when people say that, they're blaming other people because they didn't know, and really the reason you didn't know is you. That's one of the lessons. Let's see, another lesson number 9 is you only live once. That YOLO, that's not a true statement. It's just not a true statement. I don't know who thought of that. There's a lot of people that just are like, well, who does she think she is? I'm DEMETIRA TAITT. Everybody else is already taken. I'm DEMETIRA TAITT. And so it's like, that's just not a true statement. You only die once. You actually live every day. So that's, let's see, what's another lesson? And lesson number 10 is complaining is not a strategy. complaining. I'm so tired of hearing people complain, so I want to do it myself. It's just like complaining is not a strategy. Eventually you're gonna have to stop complaining, and you're going to need to do something eventually. I mean, because after you finish complaining, the thing you're complaining about is still going to be there when you finish. So those are just some examples of there's 12. But those are just examples. And those are the highlights of my book. So I invite you to hop aboard the Method to the Magic train. This book can be purchased via Amazon.com. And it is available in both Kindle and paperback editions. So, whichever is your preference, or you can get both, but it's available in that platform. And what else? Those are my highlights of my book. And I am honored, just about my book, I am honored to have been one of the spotlight authors at the 2020 Harlem Book Fair. This was the 22nd annual Harlem Book Fair. It was this past weekend. But in light of everything that's going on in the world and with the health situation, this book fair was virtual. So the year that my little first book was launched, the Harlem Book Fair was virtual. And so I was not only I was honored just to have had my book on exhibit at the book fair, but then to have received an invitation to be one of the spotlight authors was really it was very humbling. And I just want to just use this platform as an opportunity to publicly thank the Harlem Book Fair founder, Mr. Max Rodriguez, really, really cool, and the entire Harlem Book Fair team for trusting my heart and giving me allowing me to have a seat at that virtual table. So that's that. So the response has been overwhelming. I have had a lot of people ask me about the self-publishing platform and what my experience was with the self-publishing platform, which I will definitely be sharing soon under separate video. I'm going to do a separate video about my experience. Like I said, this was my first book, so I'm not an expert in self-publishing books. So I was an expert in self-publishing my own, and it's a short, easy read. But I am more than happy to share my experience, what that was like for me, and in case anyone is interested. In the meantime, I encourage you to get rid of the box, get the book, get rid of the box, and start creating your own method to make your own magic. Talk to you guys again soon.